In addition to using receivables for financing as collateral for financing, companies often use inventory to finance their short-term borrowing, or to collateralize their short-term borrowing. There are a number of factors that influence the use of inventory for financing and how appropriate that might be. One is, how marketable is the inventory? If the inventory is lumber, say raw lumber, that's probably very marketable. There are plenty of buyers that would be willing to purchase lumber in large quantities. The same with, say, copper or other metals. If your inventory is a set of bobblehead dolls, it's likely that that's not going to be very marketable. The price stability of the inventory is important. If you're going to loan money using inventory as collateral, as the lender, you want to know that the inventory is going to be worth what you think it's going to be worth, as opposed to dropping in price dramatically. Likewise, the perishability of the inventory. If the inventory is strawberries, they're going to have to be sold in a hurry. On the other hand, if the inventory is a block of aluminum, it's not perishable at all, you are likely to be more willing to use the inventory as collateral, or to accept the inventory as collateral. And then finally, the degree of physical control that the lender has over the inventory. If the lender doesn't know where the inventory is, having it as collateral isn't particularly valuable. On the other hand, if the borrower can't even sell the inventory without the lender's agreement, in other words, if the lender actually has physical possession of it, then the lender has a great deal of security and is pretty confident that he's going to be able to put his hands on the inventory if the borrower fails to make payments. Now, the stages of production are important in terms of how much the lender is willing to lend relative to the value of the inventory. Raw materials and finished goods usually provide the best collateral because they can be most easily sold. The lumber that hasn't yet gone into a product can be sold easily. The finished good is actually ready for sale, so it should be closest to or the most liquid. Having said that, goods that are in process, the goods in process, they're no longer saleable for the raw materials, and they're not saleable as finished goods either. So they may only command a value of a fourth as much as either the raw materials or the finished goods would relative to their to the cost of acquiring them. We also mentioned that the nature of lender control is important. The more assurance that the lender has, the more likely he is to make a loan, but there are greater administrative costs in giving the lender greater control over the inventory. So there are several types of arrangements. In a blanket inventory lien, the lender just has a general claim against the inventory. He doesn't have possession of it. The inventory isn't identified specifically. It's just all the things that show up on the company's books as inventory are being provided as collateral. There are other alternatives, trust receipts, that essentially serve to bind the borrower to the sale and holding of the proceeds from sales in trust for the lender. There are various warehousing arrangements where either in public warehousing or field warehousing where with, for example, a receipt, the goods can't even be moved by the borrower without the lender's approval. And in these various warehousing arrangements, you might have goods that are stored at a warehousing firm, but in a field warehousing situation, they might be stored on the borrower's premises, but they're set aside and separately controlled. in any event, in each of these methods, there are substantial administrative costs to basically sharing custody or sharing information about the inventory at a given point in time, and so using inventory as collateral tends to be more expensive than would be an unsecured loan in terms of the overall cost. Having said that, a firm may not be able to obtain unsecured financing, and so they're going to have to get financing where they can, which may be using inventory financing.